Hello, everyone. Welcome back. It's a new year, 2025, which is very exciting. And just thought, well, I'd start a new thing with the stream this year. So, end of last year, we were sort of streaming daily, and we're doing sort of character stuff and some drawings and character studies of different things. But I thought for the new year, it would be fun to do something a little bit different, and maybe use these streams to kind of start a little project of our own that sort of people can get involved in, and sort of chat can help with ideas and stuff like that. So what we're going to do is we are going to make our own comic. And when I say that, we're going to do everything that I did to get my first comic published, which is Fruit. Fruit is coming out this year. And yeah, it's really exciting to be on that journey and that road. And I thought it'd be really cool to share my experience of what I did and how I got there. So there's sort of a couple of things that people tend to go for when they are pitching comics. The traditional one is kind of the image, and sort of all of the sort of Wild Horse and other comic creators or other comic publishers available. They have like a submissions page, looks something like this here, which is Images One. And that kind of asks for a number of things that you can do to try and send your submissions in, and an email at the bottom, which I am unsure whether or not that email has ever been checked, but apparently it does get checked. So what they ask for is usually, we'll make a list to make things a little bit easier. So you've got a plan. I'm going to make a comic. Now, this is kind of just like a thought process and kind of a bit more of an exercise and just having fun and making a comic pitch from start to finish, all in real time so you guys can follow along. We've obviously got the Discord, which should be in the description here. So if you have any ideas for the comic or things that you want to share, then we can always chat about it on the Discord and put everything in there, which is pretty cool. So you want to join that community, that would be great. So the main thing that most of the publishers ask for is they always ask for about 5 to 6 pages of artwork. Now, this is completed artwork by the people that you intend to have on the book. So for this project, it will probably be myself doing most of the artwork on the stream, and colouring and doing the lettering and everything as well. But if you are working as part of a group or a team, it would have to be the artwork of the people that you want to have on the book, and not sort of just like an example or anything like that. And these also need to be completed and finished. So you're trying to sell your book as best as possible. So you want to make sure that the work that you're showing to the editors or anything that are reading it, the publishers, are the best possible work that you can do, and the most exciting stuff that you can provide. So that is the most important thing. These are kind of the slam dunk, I think, most important parts, because if you can look like your first 6 pages or whatever is a completed package, then I think it's much more easier for these publishers to sort of sign off on getting you on board with the book, because it looks like it's going to be a good project to be a part of. I think the other stuff that they ask for, let me just double check with what some of the submissions say. So they have a brief cover letter of their of the project. I can show when we get closer to that, I will be able to show you the ones that I used sort of for Fruit and different things like that my own sort of work. Examples of that, log line and then issue breakdowns, and also the if it's a series, overall story outline. So a couple of things that you'd have to provide in sort of written form if you are the writer on these projects. The main one is the log line. This is your sort of elevator pitch, your one to, a couple of 150 words, 200 words, one paragraph basically saying what your comic's about, and how, just an outline of the story, what your comic's about, and what is exciting about it to the reader, and what sets it apart from everything else. I tend to think if your idea for your comic it can't be summed up in one sentence, then it's not strong enough an idea. So one of the exercises that we do is going through sort of a sentence sort of pitch like that log line, and see if we think it's strong enough to be able to go ahead with an idea. And then issue breakdowns. So this is a story breakdown of what's happening in each of the issues. You need to not worry about giving spoilers. You need to provide all the information so they know exactly what is happening at what point, and then obviously an overall story outline. So if you've got a number of different books, say you've got an 8 or 6 issue run, what happens in each issue, and that's, sorry, wrong on that one. So the issue breakdown is going to be what's happening in your issues. So issue 1 to 6, what happens in each. And then the overall story outline is everything that happens in the comic, and also make sure you include all spoilers. So make sure you have everything in there so they know what is going to happen the whole way through the book. So what I thought we could go through today is sort of how you go about coming up with the idea of a comic, maybe how you start that process of thinking about what you're going to do for your idea. Maybe you guys have had ideas already. If you have anything you want to share, or you can always do that on our Discord, and we've got a community there of creators who are sort of all looking to either get their start in the industry or already working in the industry, and trying to help everyone basically, get their start in comics. I think it'd be quite a fun project to do over the course of the year, just slowly work on this piece once a week, and then eventually hopefully put together that final 6-page pitch, and then we'll send it off to some publishers and we'll see what comes back. Which I think will be quite fun. If anything, it will be a good process to see unfold. So if we think about making comics, the most important thing I think is that artwork. I think a lot of the writing and stuff can come after you've drawn something cool. It depends on your own personal process, but I'm an artist and writer as well, so I make all of my work, write it and also draw it. So my process is kind of what suits me, and I find the easiest is to come up with ideas first, just from what you've liked to be drawing or what you've been drawing recently, and if there's any sort of things going on. So maybe I can show some of the stuff that I've been doing. This is some of my paintings. I have to do this painting today. Oil paints that I've been sort of messing around with, but also just been doing little sort of ink drawings and anything that's going into your sketchbook. If there's any sort of ideas or characters that you've sort of drawn in your sketchbooks, you can really sort of start to get an idea of maybe some of these things could be, a story could form around them. So a lot of the time, I tend to find myself drawing these sort of female characters, and I kind of tend to use them as thumbnails for the videos. Largely, mainly because I think it's kind of a hark back to those early sort of YouTube clickbait stuff where people used to just have sort of good-looking girls as their thumbnail videos, and I think that's just kind of like a bit of the always stuck in my head that was sort of the thing that people did back in like the early 2000s. And I think it's quite interesting to sort of reference that in the new modern frame. So yeah, the main sort of starting point is to look at what you've been drawing, seeing if any characters sort of pop up. I think I might even be able to show the process of... Oh, let's see if I've got the... I don't know, I've got the sketchbooks to hand. Where did I put them? I don't think I do. But next week I'll share a little bit about the sort of path that Fruit took to come up with and how I got with the main characters from there. And a lot of that started from just sketching in my sketchbooks, and then developing it from that, sort of going forward. So let's have a look. So things that I've been drawing recently, this sort of stuff, which is all sort of like that ink drawing that I drew, showed earlier, taking it to digital. These are sort of little small slice of life comic stuff that I do around different things that happen. So like last week I went and saw that new Nosferatu film, and I thought that I would make a comic, just a little picture about it, and like gives me an opportunity to talk on my Instagram about, you know, my thoughts on the film and sound off about various sort of things. I actually really enjoyed it, so if anyone has seen that film, I definitely would, or needs to go see it, I definitely would recommend it. But yeah, so a lot of it's thinking about like these characters and stuff, and I kind of just like the idea of a really silly comic where it's just over the top, very 80s, just girls and guns, but bringing that into like a bit more of a modern sensibility. You know, you kind of like your Tank Girl and your Elektra Assassin and all these sort of quite well-known comics, but how would they come about in the modern world? So one of the exercises that I like to do for that sort of thing is just to start off with a blank document, and then all you do is write different words down. So like we were talking earlier, so the YouTube thumbnail, so what about thumbnail girls, and just sort of kind of come and try an idea of different things that you could have for titles. Just like that really silly 80s stuff, things like Super Assassin. I always like I think there was a Paul Pope one that he did, it was called like Super Trouble or something. Oh, it was so funny as a name. Just all of those like, oh God, like, and then there's like there's all of those comics that have like the full names of like My Parents Are Aliens, or like I Can't Believe It's Not Butter, sort of more manga sort of style. The other thing that I've been really enjoying at the moment is these sort of slice of life comics. I've been reading a lot of Taiyo Matsumoto. Is it Taiyo Matsumoto? Who did Tokyo These Days. Let's make sure I get that right. Yes, Taiyo Matsumoto, who did Tokyo These Days, and also Tekken Tekonkin. Gonna not be able to pronounce that. Tekonkin. Tekken. Not even going to give it a go. He did a ping pong as well, and also I think Sunny is his other book. Some of them I still need to read, but I've been really liking these sort of like just very simple stories that, you know, not a crazy amount has happened. Maybe just like, you know, maybe just like a day as a comic artist, but then everything goes wrong, or maybe you have that sort of like I don't know if anyone ever saw that. There's like a music video for, I think is it Hoosiers or something, like the Mr. A music video where all of his creatures come to life, all his creations. It's like the chap who did all of the claymation stuff for Clash of the Titans, to maybe like the comics come to life. Something like that might be quite fun. Just like something really simple and really stupid that you can kind of. My Parents and Aliens was a show. Do you not remember that, Jamie? That was a long time ago. Maybe you haven't seen that. I think it was a CBBC show. But you're all BBC Alba. Or, you're in the darkest depths. You're all probably watching Gaelic TV back then. But yeah, my Parents and Aliens was an absolute. That Tracy Beaker, Mona the Vampire, Yvonne of the Yukon. Kind of think what else was. Yeah, BBC Alba has, I don't know, for those that aren't familiar with the joys of Scottish television, when you get to, say you've flunked off school and you get to, I don't know, 10 o'clock, I think it is, or maybe 11, you finish, all the cartoons have finished, everyone's at school, but you're pulling a sick day, and suddenly you can think, oh, I've got this. I've got a whole day in front of the TV. There's nothing to worry about. Life is bliss. And then suddenly BBC Alba will just turn to full Gaelic, and you'll have the next 3 hours of people talking absolute gobbledygook that you have never heard in your life. And Gaelic being a language or in Scotland, and also I think it's parts of Ireland as well, but it's not that commonly used, but they seemingly do have a lot of TV programs still for it. And yeah, you're probably watching like a hurling match or some obscure Scottish sport that you didn't know existed. But yeah, that was always the joys if you thought that you... because I used to visit my family in Scotland, and the holidays for the UK would be different from... or from Britain would be different, England, sorry, would be different from Scotland. And so it would still be as if all the kids were at school, so you'd get caught with all the Gaelic TV rather than the actual cartoons that you wanted to watch. But yeah, so back to where we were. I think something simple like a little slice of life comic, or even just like a short sort of thing. The main thing that you have to think about with these is all you need to have is 5 to 6 pages. So when we do these 5 to 6 pages, actually, you know, you think about the things that you're providing to a publisher. You're not providing, well, you can, if you want to provide a full comic, you know, that would be like 24, maybe even 32 pages, even longer, depending on how brave you are, is one option. Or the other option is your sort of pitch. God, that's not even how you spell pitch. And with the pitch, they tend to ask for 5 to 6 pages. Now, you kind of want to treat this as a standalone piece. And you've got to think about, how do I have a self-contained story there is your pitch. That's from page 1 to 6, for example, and then you have the rest to page 24 or 22. That is the bulk of the story. Now, this is the bit that you're going to be selling. So you need to have some sort of resolution at page 6 that gives the reader, who's going to be the editor or whoever it is that reads these at the publisher, something to get excited about. Just 6 random pages from a comic book is probably not going to be the most interesting read. But if you tell a tiny little mini story within your global story, you're more likely, I think, to draw people in. And, you're sitting at kind of around about the first third of the book. So something needs to be changing in your writing. So you've got like Act 1, and then, Act 2, and then your Act 3. If you're following the sort of classic hero arc of Western storytelling. So, really you should be getting in that first pitch. You should be having development of characters, establishing a want, and then also exposition and setting the scene. So this is probably the most key thing to get in your pitch, is establishing the want of your characters. So what do they want over the course of your comic? It can be sort of a number of different things. So like, let's take the example of Batman, our good old friend. His want is to clean up the streets of Gotham. And then you can also maybe talk about his why. Like, why is he wanting to do this? And that is because of his sort of tragedy that happened to him and his parents when he was very young. And it's sort of, that is the reason why he fights. So everyone and every character in your comic needs to have a want, and they need to have some impetus for doing that. So they've got to be, over the course of your book, having some sort of resolution, and coming to some sort of change. So usually, what happens is you have a character who wants something to happen. In Act 2, they're going to face their biggest adversity up to this point here, where all seems lost and nothing is going right for them. And then suddenly in Act 3, it all becomes resolved, and then it all moves on happily ever after. Is sort of the basic storytelling arc you kind of you can follow. There's a lot of cool sort of storytelling books and information that you can have from find online, but also Kurt Vonnegut. I think there's a load of lectures of his storytelling. See if I can. He has all of these very exciting charts, and I do love a chart of all of the different types of stories. Look at this. Ooh. So you can have a little think about what your story is and what it fits into. So he has 5 stories that he outlines here. The sort of boy meets girl classic rom-com story, and this axis is, I can't remember what he does here. I think this is basically how good everything is going, and then how bad everything is going, and then this is the course or runtime of your film or book or whatever it is. So beginning, end, and then what you have here is the boy meets girl, everything, boy meets girl here. Everything seems great, all going very well. Then it starts going pear-shaped until you hit the rock bottom where they feel like they're not going to get together, and then towards the end they all live happily ever after, and it's all very, very exciting. And then you have the Cinderella story, which is another classic one where you have this sort of slow build for a while, and then suddenly she goes to the ball, everything happens, and then you hit midnight, and suddenly all hell breaks loose, and that's the lowest point for these characters, and then eventually there's sort of an area of sort of panic and peril, and then the prince gives them the slipper, and it all sort of comes from there. Um, and then, yeah, what other ones you've got? Oh, From Bad to Worse, which is this one down here, which is basically everything goes wrong and keeps going wrong and keeps going wrong, which is quite a fun one. I don't actually know a huge amount of stories. Tend to follow either like most of these sort of stories, Western stories will follow like a boy meets girl, or these sort of romance sort of things, or a Cinderella sort of story. But yeah, usually some of the other ones are a bit more obscure and take a bit of thinking about how you're gonna do them. So yeah, that's kind of like a little bit of an idea to have in the back of your brain. Is you can treat this pitch as sort of a comic within a comic. I think it's important to sort of think about, how you're going to be able to get the reader across, and sort of hopefully you want them to publish your book. So those first 1 to 5 pages are really, really important. And I can even, just as a little reference, I'll show you the first page, because I do think the first page is quite important, of Fruit that I used to pitch to publishers. Bum, ba, bum. Or maybe I'm going to have to deep dive to find that in my files. Definitely for 2025, my resolution is to try and organize my files better so that it'd be easier to find on stream, so I'm not sat here going through and trying to find stuff. So yeah, this was the first page that I used. I think there's kind of a little secret in here. If you want some inside baseball, I went with a full page for the first issue of my pitch, because I have a sneaking suspicion that people get bored very, very quickly now. And if you start your book with a massive comic book panel of 16 pages and, information, I think it's pretty tough for people to get behind it. So I was quite cheeky with mine, and I started off with one panel on page 1, 2 panels on page 2, 3 panels on page 3, and then sort of went from there. I think it went a bit more after that, but the idea was that you kind of like took people in and then brought them up to speed without needing to sort of dump a load of information on them. By the time that they were like invested into the story, they were already 4 or 5 pages in, and they've really committed to the bit of, sort of wanting to read it and stuff like that as well. So that's kind of the main thing from there. What I might do is actually, I think it'd be quite fun to show how I started with my ideas for Fruit. So I'm going to go and try and find some of the sketchbooks, so I can show you guys what I did to get to this first page here, with Cherry running through the streets. So give me 2 seconds, chat. I'll be right back for that one. Tell a lie, I could not find them. So I think I've got them on my computer. So I'm going to have a look for that for 2 seconds. And it's probably a good time to tell you all about what we're doing here. So today we are starting the journey of creating our own comic. I thought for 2025 it would be a really exciting idea to create a comic from start to finish, sort of live here once a week on YouTube, just showing you guys the process that I went through to create my first comic pitch and get my comic Fruit published, which is coming out this year. And I thought it would be just cool to go through an idea from start to finish, maybe get some help from chat with some sort of ideas, bounce things off. And we've got a nice Discord, which should be in the maybe we can get some stuff here. Should be in the link, but in the description below, and that should help for you guys if anyone is interested in sharing their own ideas, their work, what they're working on. And yeah, if so people who want to bounce ideas off each other, we've got sort of channels for people who are interested in writing, people who are interested in just artwork. You can share your art on there, and just sort of get help if you want any help on your pieces. And it's just a good little community and space to be able to go through and just help each other out and talk to each other. So I'm just going to drop a load of random pages in here just to show you guys what I was exploring, if I can. Hope everyone had a good new year, and is all doing well. If they've got anything of interest that they're doing for their 2025, any cool projects or anything that they've got going on, then they should definitely let us know. I'm always like hearing about what people have got going on in their lives and projects and stuff. Cool. So this is kind of where I started in the sketchbook for Fruit. So the main thing that I was doing was actually just drawing characters. So I think the first thing that came up was this page here was one of the first ones that I did in my sketchbook. And this character was the one that caught my eye. I think I was just sort of doodling a little bit. This is from a Pinterest reference. I just quite like the idea of the businessman on a bike, which might be a quite a cool idea for a comic as well. So maybe you can think about what this chap might be doing. So this was kind of the starting point for Cherry. And then I kind of was really looking into sort of fashion illustration and fashion photography at the time, and then did this sketch in my sketchbook, and then kind of just kept drawing them a couple of times. This was a sort of little painting that I did in my sketchbook, and then this was a little sketch of another character that sort of came through, and eventually I just kept drawing the character over and over and again. I thought actually this might be a fun character to sort of work with. And then I did the first page. So I drew the first page in ink. I didn't have any story or anything at that point, but I just really liked the way that page sort of looked, and I thought this was the start of something. And from there I started sort of running with the idea of what these characters could do. So that's kind of where I start my process. And I think what we'll do is we'll set ourselves a little bit of homework, but this is fun homework because, we're all artists and we want to draw, right? There's no bad homework here. So what I think for next week, tune in next time to find out. What we'll do is we'll just get in the sketchbook. Honestly, you'll find out from me doing this that my brain goes 2 steps ahead of myself and I start writing words way too quickly. So, characters, just what my editor always says, what do you want to draw? This is super, super, super important. If you write a story and you're going to be doing it and you're going to pitch it to publishers and you're going to be drawing it over and over and over again, it's got to be something that you really, really, really want to keep drawing, because by the time you get to page 22 of issue 1, you're going to be really bored. So this is kind of an important stage to keep going and keep finding that sort of thing that you're like, yeah, this is something that I really want to keep pushing with. So sketchbooks, that is the name of the game, and what we'll be doing for homework until next week on the stream. So drawing characters, and then also the exercise that we sort of started at the beginning, which was might have gone, but just title ideas. So simple words or phrases or whatever, and pairing unlikely things out, writing a load of words on one sentence. I think there's sort of David Bowie had that idea where you kind of pick different words out of a bowl or whatever it is, and get your sort of idea from there. So coming together with a couple of sort of titles or rough ideas of what it's going to be, and then from there we can start thinking about maybe the structure of that pitch, maybe what the story could be, and where the comic could go from there. So I think that's a good starting point. What we did is we went over a little bit about the sort of story structure, what's required for pitching to publishers, what they ask for in this 5 to 6 pages, and what we can consider in this being like a mini standalone comic where you really want to have some sort of change or establishment of why or what the characters want by the end of that 6 pages. And then talked a little bit about my first comic, which is Fruit, and how we got from towards the final comic through my sketchbooks and all the sketching and stuff that we did from there. And then we sort of, the idea is to set ourselves some homework and come back next week for an exciting iteration of making comics. And I think that was pretty much all that we'll do today. Just a quick stream just to sort of outline what we were going to do for 2025. And I hope that you guys will be here for the ride to be able to see this project sort of as it unfolds. And if you do want to get involved and share your ideas and stuff like that as well, you can certainly do that. We have a Discord channel which you can find in the description below. And on there we've got spaces for you guys to share your work and share your ideas and what you've got going on, and just chat with other people who like making comics. And so hopefully join along, and next week we'll have some drawings to be able to show off and show you guys some ideas, and maybe you can work through some stuff to maybe get this towards a bit more of a complete pitch. And thanks everyone for joining, and we'll see you next week. I'll probably be doing the live, thinking it might be on Monday, but I'll post it on my socials, where you can find me there on at Callum Gillespie on most of the different social media channels that you all follow: Instagram, TikTok, etc., etc. So we'll catch you guys then. Appreciate it. Cheers. Bye.